Did you know that the Arab slave trade was in full effect well before the Europeans arrived? The history of African enslavement is often associated with the transatlantic slave trade, but the roots of this tragic practice go much deeper. The arrival of Islam in Africa brought significant changes, including new trade networks and cultural practices. However, it also led to the enslavement of many Africans, as Arab traders sought to expand their influence. Similarly, the spread of Christianity by European missionaries disrupted traditional African societies and justified the exploitation of African people. Before the Portuguese began their notorious slave trade, Arab traders had already established extensive networks that included the trade of enslaved individuals. Later, European Christians used these networks to further their own colonial ambitions. Prince Henry the Navigator relied on information from the Moors, skilled navigators and scholars who provided detailed knowledge about Africa's geography and trade routes. This knowledge was exploited by European Christians to dominate and enslave African people. This information was critical to his success, enabling European explorers to chart new territories and establish trade routes that would lead to the further exploitation of Africa. The Moors' knowledge of the Barbary states and trade routes facilitated the exchange of goods and ideas, but it also played a crucial role in the development of the transatlantic slave trade, which was later dominated by European Christians. Insights into the Guinea coast were particularly valuable, allowing European powers to exploit the region's resources and people under the guise of spreading Christianity. Understanding this context sheds light on interactions between African societies and external powers, highlighting the complex and often painful history of African enslavement and exploitation by both Arab and Christian forces. The influence of Islam and Christianity, along with the trade networks established by the Moors and European Christians, were foundational in shaping Africa's history and its interactions with the outside world. Visit portcityvibes.com to support Black-owned businesses and stay tuned for more deep dives into our rich African heritage. In this chapter, we will delve deeper into the impact of Christianity and Islam on indigenous African societies, exploring how these religions disrupted traditional practices, cultures, and social structures. The arrival of Christianity and Islam brought significant changes to the African continent. Their arrival introduced new religious doctrines and practices. Traditional trade routes and systems were altered, leading to the exchange of not just goods, but also religious ideologies. These changes often led to cultural clashes and the erosion of indigenous traditions, resulting in a loss of cultural diversity and heritage. Indigenous agricultural techniques were often overshadowed by new methods introduced by foreign influences, which sometimes led to environmental degradation and disruption of local ecosystems. These changes in farming practices also affected food security and the livelihoods of many communities. Traditional architectural styles were replaced or modified with the construction of churches and mosques, altering the landscape. Moreover, the spread of these religions impacted education and literacy, with missionary schools often prioritizing religious teachings over indigenous knowledge. This shift in focus affected the intellectual traditions of African societies, leading to a decline in indigenous scientific and cultural advancements. The introduction of these religions also brought changes to social structures. New legal and administrative systems were imposed, leading to shifts in governance and social organization. These changes often disrupted existing governance systems and introduced new forms of social stratification. The integration of African societies into the broader Christian and Islamic worlds also meant the spread of the slave trade. Understanding the impact of Christianity and Islam on African societies allows us to appreciate the complexities of history. It highlights how interconnected our world has always been and the profound ways in which different cultures have influenced each other. Stay tuned for more insights and fascinating stories as we continue to unravel the rich and intricate history of Africa. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to help us bring these untold stories to a wider audience. Visit portcityvibes.com to support Black-owned businesses and join us in celebrating our shared heritage. Next, we will examine the Portuguese expeditions, focusing on their interactions with African kingdoms and the resulting cultural exchanges. The arrival of the Portuguese in Africa during the 15th century marked a significant turning point in the continent's history. Driven by the desire for new trade routes, Portuguese explorers ventured along the West African coast, establishing contact with various African kingdoms. These interactions were complex, leading to both cooperation and conflict. The Portuguese brought new technologies, such as firearms, which had a profound impact on African societies. One notable aspect was the introduction of Christianity by Portuguese missionaries. This new religion found converts among some African rulers, leading to the establishment of Christian communities. However, the spread of Christianity brought significant changes, often causing tensions and conflicts. Trade relationships were not always equal, leading to exploitation and the intensification of the transatlantic slave trade. The legacy of these religious influences can still be seen in various aspects of African culture today. Understanding the Portuguese expeditions and their impact on African kingdoms allows us to appreciate the complexities of global history. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to help us bring these untold stories to a wider audience. Visit portcityvibes.com to support Black-owned businesses and join us in celebrating our shared heritage. In this chapter, we will discuss the long-term effects of the trans-Saharan trade routes established by the Moors and how they shaped the economic landscape of Africa. These routes were arteries of cultural, intellectual, and economic exchange connecting North Africa with sub-Saharan regions. The Moors, known for their advanced knowledge in astronomy, mathematics, and medicine, played a pivotal role in maintaining these routes. They facilitated the exchange of goods like gold, salt, and textiles, as well as ideas, technologies, and religious beliefs. The introduction of the camel revolutionized desert travel, boosting trade and leading to the rise of powerful empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. These empires became centers of learning and culture, with cities like Timbuktu emerging as intellectual hubs. The trade routes also impacted social structures, leading to complex hierarchies and powerful merchant classes. The spread of Islam through these routes influenced African culture, governance, and education. Despite challenges, the legacy of the trans-Saharan trade routes showcases the resilience and adaptability of African societies. Join us as we uncover more historical gems and delve into Africa's rich and diverse heritage. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to help us bring these untold stories to a wider audience. Visit portcityvibes.com to support Black-owned businesses and celebrate our shared heritage.